I'm going to share with you a year and a half's worth of knowledge to help you master all things Google. I'm going to show you how I've taken companies from $60,000 in revenue to $250,000 per month in just 2 months using advertising. And I'm also going to show you how I've taken companies from 0 calls per day to 2 calls a day using no advertising at all. I'm going to share with you how I learned that Google is in fact just one big system, and if you're missing any piece of the puzzle, the whole thing breaks. We'll start with the Google My Business profile. I'll show you how to make it absolutely perfect and show you how to rank it up over time. Next, we'll move on to the website. I'll show you exactly what you need to start getting customers, and I'll help you to understand SEO and how it works for a local service business. Then we'll move on to advertising. We'll start with Google Local Service Ads, and I'll share with you the secrets that I'm using to generate over 100 leads per week for multiple businesses. And finally, Google Ads. I'll share with you what actually works and show you how to generate revenue and profit within just 2 weeks of setting it up. All of that I'm going to compact into 1 hour and a half long video, and again, it's a year and a half's worth of knowledge. So if you're a local service business like an electrician, a plumber, or a roofer, this video is for you. If you don't yet understand how Google can make your business money, then I promise you by the end of this video, you will. So let's jump into it. All right, so this is the profitable framework for Google. If you follow this, you'll be giving yourself the best chance, you and your business, to get the most calls possible from Google. There will be some parts that are quite complicated. That's okay. You can just use ChatGPT to figure out what I'm talking about. I will try and make it so it's very easy for you to understand things as we go. However, if you do get lost, feel free to leave a comment on this video. I'll also post a Facebook group where you can go and ask questions there and work through this process. If you are leaving this process up to someone else, you're working with an agency or someone to go through this process for you, you'll find them in the video description below. There'll be a spreadsheet that has a checklist of all the things that you need to check off in order to go through this process, so you can work through that with your companies as well and just make sure you've got everything that you need. So with that being said, let's get started. So Google Business Profile is first, along with the website. We need to get these as good as possible in order for our local service ads and Google ads to have the best shot possible to get calls. If you don't have these set up well, then Google ads and local service ads, I've seen them not work very well at all and not be profitable. So I would really focus on getting these two going first. And then we've got Facebook and Instagram local lead services like Yelp and Angi. I'll talk about how these tie in to the Google Business Profile and website to help get you more calls and to help you rank up faster on Google. All right, so let's get started. Let's jump straight into the Google Business Profile. So you're probably aware of what the Google Business Profile is. If you search up in your browser, electrician near me, I work mostly with electricians, so that's why we'll use them as the example today. This is the Google Business Profile rankings. So this is where you'll show up. It's called the map pack. If you search for the specific business name that you are working with, this company, for example, this is how it will show up inside of Google. This is your Google Business Profile. And we want to rank this as highly as possible because you can see it usually starts with ads or local service ads, and then the next thing they see is a Google Business Profile. So it is quite important. The business registry location is the first thing to talk about. When you sign up to Google Business Profile, Google will check where your business is registered based on your business registrar. So however you sign up to your business in whatever country or state you're in, you'll have to register your business somewhere. And whatever address you've registered your business on, Google's going to expect your Google Business Profile to be registered at the same address. If not, you probably won't pass the verification process. However, this registration location really matters a lot because say if we're on the map here and we register in the middle of the city, then we basically get a great chance in order to rank for everything around that area. The way that the rankings work is that they're heavily weighted to where your business location is. And there's a software here called Bright Local, which gives you a really good overview of how this actually looks. So you can access the local search grid here, and then you can see this is what it looks like. Basically what these numbers and dots represent is your ranking when you're searched from a specific location. So for example, if I was searching in Amesbury and I lived in Amesbury and I searched, these would be the top 3 results that you would see right here. So 1, 2, 3. And this number corresponds to what rank you would show up. So if I search from here, I'd be rank 1, so I would show up in the top spot. And so you'll have this for your business too. You'll have this set of dots, and exactly what I was saying before, depending on where you've registered your business, say we're out in the middle of nowhere, we probably won't be ranking in Amesbury, even if we're targeting Amesbury and we're running ads, or we've got Amesbury on our website. The location that you're registered matters more. So make sure, if you can, to get an office in town. Just get a place in town where you can register your business, change the registry, update it on Google, and that'll help a lot with your ranking if you're not already doing well on Google Business. If you have had a business for a while and it's working, then what you want to do first before making any decision is check one of these ranking softwares so you can see where you're at. If you're already ranked highly, which can happen if you've been doing things for a long time, Google can look at your reviews and your website, and if you're doing things for a very long time, they can just rank you in these locations. Definitely take that into account before you do anything. It's worth noting as well that if you change your location, you will need to update a setting on your Google Business profile, otherwise your location won't actually update. So if you go into your profile and you do change your location, you actually need to update your address if you haven't already, so that it does show your location. For service businesses, Google doesn't require you to show your location. However, if you do update it, you'll need to show it, because otherwise your location for some reason just won't update in the back end. All right, so that's number one. Google Business Profile verified. So if you're not verified, Google won't want to send you as many calls, so get verified. Can be a tricky process, work through it. There's plenty of people out there that can help, and lots of videos on it, so do work through it. All right, company name and Google Business Profile display name. So what this is, if we look at Rewired Iowa, we want to have the main keyword for the business inside if possible, and then also a main location. Now the location's a bit of a tricky one. We kind of want a location that people are actually going to type into search. I would say this is highly optional and only do it if it makes sense for your business. If you're in a small location and you service somewhere really wide, it doesn't make sense to put the name there because most people won't be searching for your city. You only want to put this if you live in a really, really large city where a lot of people are searching for the city when they type in electrician. So a lot of people in the city will be searching for electrician Des Moines when they search, and you can see the city is really large. And so it makes sense for this company to have Des Moines in their name. Again, but won't make sense for everyone. The keyword name of electrician is much more important. All right, so for your keyword, the easiest way to figure out what you should be putting in this location here is you can do your keyword research and all that, which we're going to do later on. But the fastest way to do it is just to search up your competition. So we'll put, for this one, let's put electrician near me. You want to search up your competition, and then this keyword here is going to be their main category. And so that's what Google believes to be what this company is. And whatever that thing is what you want to put inside of your title. So basically we want to put our title, we want to put that keyword in our title, as if someone searches for an electrician in our location, they're going to use this keyword, and we want Google to think we're highly relevant for that search. Correct categories. So this is really important. The ads weren't getting any results. I was very confused, and I started looking into their Google Business Profile and their website, which are both being managed by an SEO company at the time. When I checked their Google Business Profile, what I noticed was that if you see here, you can see it says electrician in Des Moines. This category, this is your main category, was set as something else. It was set as like electrical installation service. So if you go to edit profile and then you click on the business categories here, this electrical installation service was set as the primary category, and electrician wasn't even on there. This primary category is really important. As soon as I switched the main one to electrician, they went from 0 calls a day to 1 to 2 calls a day immediately within, say, a week. It was a very fast turnaround, and we weren't running ads at the time. We turned them off because we were just trying to get things working. But that's how big an impact it can have. You can have 1 to 2 calls a day, averaging over a year. That's a lot of calls. That's a lot of money coming into the business just from that one change. And so that's a really good example of how important one individual setting or one individual thing you can do on Google that can make an absolutely huge difference. If there's one thing that's been missed, then you might not get any calls. So take this stuff really seriously. All right, so the next thing, we want to make sure everything's filled out correctly. So we've got correct services, FAQs, products, photos, and all the other profile options filled out on the Google Business Profile. So if we go into the profile, we basically want to make sure we go through all of these different things and everything's working. The advertise button's a bit weird. Most people, this won't actually work for some reason, but that's okay. Don't worry about that button for now. Everything else we want to go through. We want to make sure we've got all the products here. We want to make sure that all the products have a link to our page if we have a page on our website about them. We want to make sure they have a description. We want to make sure we've got all the services that we've got listed, and all of these services have descriptions as well. Basically, we just want to give Google the best chance possible to link to our profile. We don't want to give them any reason not to link. So we want to fill everything out as well as possible. We want to make sure we ask and answer questions. So if you go to ChatGPT, you can type in, what kind of questions do people looking for an electrician usually ask? I want to build out an FAQ for my Google business profile. So we can do that. And then if you've got any questions that people often ask you can put those in as well. But we can ask ChatGPT this, and then it will come up with a good list of questions for us. And then we can answer those and use ChatGPT to help answer them as well. Great. And the other thing we want to do is photos and reviews. I'll do reviews last, but photos, we want to make sure that the photos we have on our profile, we just want to fill them out. We want to make sure we've got as many with people in our team as possible. I see a lot of electricians that will just post photos of work. That's fine, but you also want to have a good mix of you and your team in there as well, because people like working with people that they trust and know. And so if they've seen you, there's a high chance they're going to trust and know you as well. Or at least think they trust you. And then the last thing we want to do is fill out our profile. So we want to make sure everything is filled out as much as possible. We want all our locations, we want our accurate hours, all of those things to be correct. And then once we've got that stuff done, we want to do reviews. So ideally, you've got at least 10 to 15 reviews on your Google business profile. Ask your friends, ask your family, ask your previous customers to just leave you a review. Try to get 10 to 15. Don't do too many more than that from the initial push, because otherwise Google might flag you, and we don't want that to happen. Just do the 10 to 15, and then you can slowly build up reviews over time. All right, so that's the setup done. Once we've got all of these things, there's nothing else we need on the Google business profile directly. It'll be absolutely perfect. It'll be exactly what Google is looking for. There are some things on the website and local services and all those things like further along that all link back to the Google business profile. However, if you've set this up the way that I've showed you right now, your Google business profile will be in the best position to start generating calls on its own. Now we're going to talk about the management for it, because this will help to boost that even further. This is really the real secret sources that will, I mean, I've seen businesses just get calls from Google business profile alone with a very simple website, as long as they manage it right. This might be the starting point for your business here right now. But let's dive into the management, because the management is really important to make sure that the profile ranks higher over time. So to begin with, we're talking about the reviews again. So reviews with service keyword included. Now, with reviews, the ideal situation is that we're kind of getting as many as we possibly can consistently over time. Like 1 a day would be amazing. 2 a day would be amazing. The more, the better. As long as they're actually legit, Google can detect if you're just spamming reviews. When you do get reviews come in, it's a really good idea to ask your customers to include the service keyword or the service that you did for them. So say if you upgraded a panel, you installed a generator, especially for those big jobs, you want to make sure that they put, hey, thanks so much for upgrading that panel for us, or doing a panel upgrade for us. Really appreciate it. Whatever they put there, just get them to put the service keyword, because Google will look at that service keyword, and they will, whenever someone else in that area searches for that service again, there's a high chance that your business will show up, because Google looks at the reviews of companies that have recently helped someone to check if you're relevant for that search term. So that'll help you boost up your business ranking as well. The other thing we should be doing is basically showing Google that we're using the profile, that we're utilizing it as much as possible. We want to upload photos regularly. We want to do regular updates. I didn't cover the updates before, but basically there's a button here that says add update, and you can do it here as well. And there's tools that you can use to automatically add updates, which I will go over right now as well. But we want to make sure that the profile is basically lived in. We want to answer any reviews that come in as soon as possible. We want to answer any FAQs that come in as soon as possible. If you want to make the management a bit easier, I haven't found a good tool for photo uploads, but it's pretty easy to upload a new photo when you get them coming in. Just do that regularly, ideally every day if possible. For the updates, what you can actually do is use a tool. There's a couple of automation tools you can use. The one that I think I found the cheapest, but let me know if you find one cheaper than this, is Go High Level, which costs around $97 a month. But I think you can even get a cheaper version than that for one if you're just one business. So this is Go High Level. It's basically a full CRM, so you can use it as the full CRM if you don't have one. A CRM is basically a place where you can manage customer conversations. As customers contact you, you can use this to reply to them with messages, emails. It's all housed in one place. You can do your calendars here. You can schedule your jobs here. You can manage your customer's life cycle. When a customer comes in, as you update them, you can move them through the process to see what they need to do and see all their information. And then the other thing we can do is marketing. So we've got a social planner here where you can basically upload all of your updates on Google. This connects directly to your Google business profile. You can add photos, you can add text, you can add a website, you can add a button. All of those things will show up down the bottom here. So have an update that shows up in your Google business profile that people can see. And whatever you want in those updates, you can use ChatGPT to help you write them, pretty much. So you can schedule out a couple of months in advance of updates, or just a month in advance, and then have those coming in so that Google feels like the profile is really being used. And that's it. That's the full Google business profile. Again, if you're doing that as well as the management, there's a high chance that you actually get calls just coming in from this with a simple website, of course. Hopefully that is helpful. If I've missed anything, or if there's anything that you know that I haven't included, please leave a comment below so we can include that in future videos to help more people out as well. All right, so now we get to the big one, the website. There's a lot to talk about here, but really the main thing that we want to be covering is how do I generate revenue from my website? And how does it connect into everything else to generate more revenue and more calls and everything like that? How do I build a website so that it does generate calls? How do I know when it's not working? How do I work with SEO companies or manage SEO myself? What are SEO companies actually doing for me? All of those questions I will answer in this segment here. So it's worth starting off by saying I'm not just making all this stuff up. Even for the Google business profile, for the website, I've done a ton of research. I was going to swear there, but I've done so much research on this, mainly because when I've been working with clients with advertising, I've come across so many different SEO companies. I had no idea what they were doing. I had no idea how they were contributing. And in the cases where my clients weren't getting good results, I've had to figure out what the heck's been going on the website side, what's been going with SEO. I have tons of experience on websites previously, but it's never been in the context of like trying to make a business money. It's always been like, hey, make a fancy design or make a nice website or something that works fast or whatever. But I've never until now, over the last year, just really figured out how to make money with a website, basically. And so I thank those guys that I worked alongside with because they've helped me come to a great understanding of how it all works. The way that I like to do things now is I base it off of this thing that I found called the local search ranking factors as kind of my main resource. And what this is it's for local businesses or local service providers. There's basically a bunch of people that have been working in this industry for a very long time. This company sends them out a survey to do, and then they rank what they think are the most important things to put on a website. And so this is a really good way to get kind of an aggregate. We're getting data from a lot of different people as to what they think is really good. And the reason we have to do it that way is because Google literally does not tell us. Most of the stuff is like tried and tested, and it's probably got like a 5-year life cycle, even with the current age we have of AI and things like that. So this is a great resource that I would recommend you looking at. It's got ranking factors for both the Google business profile and the website. And so we're going to use this. I use this to build the websites that I'm working on. It's more of an overall guide, and I feel like it's a really good guide for building a website. Okay, cool. So these are the most important things that I've pulled out from that. A lot of the things on the guide all refer back to these kind of top 12 things. You really only need to cover all of the top ones because, like I said, they all kind of link back to the top factors anyway. Okay, cool. So let's start with something actually that isn't mentioned on there. which is kind of funny, but they don't really talk about what kind of content should be on your website. They do a little bit, they talk about keywords and things like that, but really what we want to do is use this framework that Google does give us, which is called the EEAT framework. This is Google's framework for developing a website that has good content. So let's just have a look really quickly. This is the framework here. You can look it up yourself. This is what Google wants to see on your website when they evaluate it. They'll send in an AI or a bot around to your website and they'll take a look at your content and evaluate it. This is a really good framework to use so that we can make sure that Google will be happy with the content that's on our website. So whenever you work with someone or when you do it yourself, keep this framework in mind. Make sure that when you write the content for your homepage, you're covering all of these 4 points. There's a lot of good examples of websites that do that in other websites in your industry. And basically, you can take the best parts from them, rewrite it for your own company, and just make sure you're covering these 4 things. So that's number 1. Number 2, you want to make sure that your meta titles contain service and location keywords. What are meta titles? Well, basically, whenever you search for anything on Google, this title here that shows up is a meta title, and this is the meta description. And so we want to make sure our titles contain keywords. Now, the thing about these titles is that this one is showing, a couple of words. You can see they've all got different lengths here. However, you can make these titles kind of as long as you want. And so what you want to do is you want to make the first part of these titles as some selling point. So like for this one, the selling point is that these electricians are licensed and insured. You could do like highly trustworthy electricians or 5-star service electricians or #1 electrician in location, and have that as you're trying to get as many people as possible to click on your website. That's what the title is. And the description acts the same. The description doesn't matter what keywords are in there. Google doesn't actually look at it, but it will matter in terms of selling people. When you want people to click on your website, you want that to be basically sales text, reasons for people to click on your website should be there. What you can do with the title is that once you've got this first segment here, you can write the title to be much longer. Like it can just keep on going and going. It won't actually show up on Google, but it will be there. The words will be there. There'll be keywords in there. There'll be locations. You can put whatever you want in there. And you basically just want to make sure your titles have our keyword loaded so that Google will think your website is very relevant to your customers. Great. Number 3, user experience. Easy to contact you. We want to make sure that if someone goes to our website, this is a good example, there's a very clear call button. There's a very clear schedule button if you want them to be able to schedule or write on a form. There's call buttons all over the place as you scroll down the website or as they're looking through things. Basically, the whole website is geared for people to contact you, because I see a lot of websites that people build that don't have contact buttons, or they make it very difficult to contact. It doesn't count if you've got a little contact button up here in your navigation bar, because you're relying on people to see that. Like the button should stand out, like these buttons here. It'd be very obvious that that's the thing that you want people to do. So make sure that's there. All right, and make sure the buttons work too, because a lot of people have buttons and they don't actually work. So test the buttons. All right, cool. So next one, page for each service. So we want to make sure that our website has a page for each service that's easily findable. So for this company, they've got residential and commercial services. And then if you scroll down, there's a page for each of those services. So if we click into any of these, they've got a page that is specifically made for electrical panels or whatever the service is. You want that for all of your services. Same with locations. Yeah. So there's pages here for each location. These pages for the locations can be really similar. They can basically just have location and just a few key points, and all of the pages can be relatively the same. We want to just tell Google that we service those locations, and the way we do that is by having location pages. So the way that works is that really helps you rank up in the locations around where your business serves. If I registered my business here in Amesbury, if I add location pages, you can see like we've done for this company, a couple of months later down the line, now their rankings are higher across the board. So that's what location pages help you do. They help you spread out your Google My Business rankings, helps you show up in organic search results. So when someone searches for Amesbury electrician, you'll show up in the search results as well. And then we want to interlink pages. We want to make sure it's really easy to navigate through our website. So if we scroll down, we've got all of these different links to different pages here. We've got all the links to the different locations. We don't just want to link things in the navigation bar. That doesn't count. We actually have to link things throughout the pages as well. So that's really important too. It actually helps you write your content as well, because you know that you can have sections that are quite similar across all the pages, but are slightly different for each page. Okay, cool. So keywords in H1, H2s, etc. Basically what this means is that in your titles, so if we go back to the home page, we want to make sure that our titles have the keywords in them. So for us, this is an electrician, so electrician is in the title. I see a lot of people put keywords that don't really matter or are less search terms. So like they'll put electrical company, electrical services. Check if people are actually searching those terms by using Google's keyword planner. Basically, you go to Google's planning tool and you search for the terms that you actually want to put in your title. So you can search for electrician, you can look for electrical services, electrical company, and just see which one of these ones people are typing in the most, because this is directly correlated. If we put an Iowa, this is directly correlated to what people are searching for on Google. So we want to put in whatever has the highest amount of searches. So for us, you can see electrician is by far the highest. Electrical company right here is the second highest, and it has 10 times less searches. So it's really important to just do a little bit of research. You don't really need to do much. It's not very complicated. Just make sure that the headers that you choose are actually highly relevant to what people are searching for. And you want to do that on every single page that you've got. All right, so it's the same thing. So if we have I'll just show you an example of that. For electrical panels again, we make sure that in the electrical panel titles, so here we've got electrical panel in the titles. Electrical panel upgrade is a big one that people search for. And we want to put that in multiple titles throughout the page. Like this. Great. Next, HTTPS enabled. So if you look at the top of your website right now, if you're on the internet, you'll be on Google probably if you're watching this. Connection secure, you can see right at the top of my page as I'm doing it now. It's a bit hidden, but it says connection secure. You want to make sure that your website is secure. If it's not, you're going to want to make it secure. So figure out how to do that. You can use ChatGPT, you can work with someone to make it happen, but usually pages are secure by default, but sometimes they're not. So make sure that yours is. So we want to make sure all the website pages that we have load in less than 3 seconds. This is really important for experience. In order to do this, you might need to work with a professional. The tools that I've seen that help you measure page load speeds, they seem to be getting worse over time. But basically, if you're on Google Chrome, you can open up Google Chrome, right-click this inspect button, and then there's this button here called Lighthouse that you can use, and then you can analyze the page load of a website using Lighthouse. This will give you a pretty good idea. All right, so we've got the results back. As you can see, like it doesn't seem to be very accurate. I mean, I just did it on Google and it says Google takes 7 seconds to load, which I don't think is actually true. I think it'd be good to consult a professional on this one because I'm not really sure what happened to these tools, but they used to work well and now they don't. Google does measure your page load speeds. If they're really slow, then Google's not going to want to send people to your websites, unfortunately. All right, so the next one, NAP citations. This is the name, address, phone number that is listed on your website, on your Google business profile. If we go back to the profile, your name, company name here, your address here, and your phone. Google wants to just check across the internet, see how often people reference your business. And they check that by seeing how many places on the internet have your name, address, and phone number on them. Now, there's services that you can use. A really popular one is called Yext. So we'll just go check that out, yext.com, which basically you can manage listings. I think they'll post your business name, address, and phone number in like 60 locations across the internet. This is really useful if you already had a Google business profile and you change your name. You want to make sure that your name is the same across the internet. And so Yext can help with that. They basically, whenever you do an update on your Google business profile, they will update all of those different locations across the internet so that they say the same thing, which is really important. Google cares. They want to make sure that you're accurately represented across the internet, and so make sure those are correct. There's also a lot of different services that do this. I use Sprite Local for this as well. You can just do a citation builder. It's usually about $2.50 to $3 per citation. So it can start getting expensive the more you do, but I think it's worth it to do at least a few, maybe spend $100 on it. Just keep in mind that whenever you change your name, you have to change and update all of these across the internet. So a service like Yext is really good for that because you're just paying like $10 a week to do that, but it does add up. Great, so the other important thing to note is that if you do have your business address visible, then you want to put your name, address, and phone number on your website as well. Somewhere down the bottom is usually fine. I think this company here doesn't have their address visible, so they don't have their name, address, phone number, but I think this company does. Let's just have a look. Yeah, their business address is visible, and so we should have the business address down the bottom like this. And now the other thing to mention is the domain age. So I see a lot of companies that are like, I want to start a new business, I want to change our brand or whatever, and then they do all of the work to do that, and then they get no calls, and they're like, what's going on? My brand is new and it's fancy. Why aren't people calling me? And the reason is because if you've had your business for a long time, then the domain is the thing that stores your reputation and your authority across Google. And so Google doesn't care about new brands, but they care about trusted brands with authority. And so be very wary about changing your domain name. If you've had your business for more than a year or two, your domain name is going to get stronger and stronger over time. There are tools that you can use to measure this. Hrefs is another really popular one. But basically, they'll have a domain authority score. If you start a new domain, like if you buy a new website, no matter what it is, it's going to start at 0. And this takes a long time for the domain authority to grow. And we'll talk about how to grow it. This is basically the job of an SEO company, to grow this domain authority score, because it helps get your name out there across Google. The higher your authority, the more Google's going to want to send you traffic. And then the other thing to talk about is domain authority. It's mainly through making content, getting people to link to your website, which we'll talk about in SEO management. But that number, it does matter. It's not if whoever's got the highest domain authority is going to win every search, but it does matter a lot. Like if we look at the local search grid on Bright Local, you can see that it's got an authority score and it's scored all of these other companies, so we can see where they're at and where we are compared to them. And you can see kind of a moving average. The higher the authority is, the more likely they're going to be at the top. This one's 6 out of 10, it's the only one at the bottom. As we go up, there's a higher chance that having a high authority actually impacts it, but it's not a huge impact. It's just kind of like a big moving average. Like imagine it's just like a big ball of search terms. And as long as, you're most likely, or the larger you are, I guess, the more likely that you'll be closer to the top. It's very hard to describe it, but let's talk about the management of the website. That's domain authority. But I mean, really, that's it. That's everything that you need setup wise for your SEO, for your website. If you've got all those things, then your website should be ranking, and it has got the potential to rank well. It'll have the potential to bring you in phone calls. All right, cool. So the next thing we need to look at is SEO management. This is, say, if you work with an SEO company or you do the SEO management yourself. These are the things to watch out for. Basically, like I said before, we're trying to grow this authority score. That is the main goal of hiring an SEO company. The sub goal is to get more phone calls and more customers because our authority score has gone up. It is a very long-term process to do that. However, I have seen companies do really well. If you've got an older website that hasn't been generating a lot of calls, most people that I talk to have been running their business for a while. They haven't been generating many calls from Google. However, because your website has relevant content on it, you might not even be posting blogs, but over time, just having that relevant content on your website, being an electrician, showing Google, hey, I'm an electrician, your domain authority will be slowly growing just from the domain age. Doing a few of these different tweaks on the website and on the Google business profile might be all you need in order to actually get seen on Google and start generating calls. You might not even need to do any SEO management at all. You might already have a high enough domain authority score. You've got to really think about it in terms of you versus your competition. If your competition are all like 1s and 2s or 4s and 5s and you're automatically a 6, then you might not even need to work on your SEO at all because you're already at the top. And maybe the only reason that you would work on it was just to kind of build a moat or separate yourself from the competition, so that if they do decide to work on their SEO, they don't immediately take over all of your traffic. So it's more of a preventative thing. So it really just depends on your competition. You might need it. All right, so in highly competitive areas, you probably will need SEO management, cities, things like that, because a lot of companies would have hired an SEO company to do it. And the thing that helps for those is blogging. So basically, we just want to keep on putting out consistent content that's relevant to our niche. If you're an electrician, you just want to put out content about the different types of services that you do, the different locations that you service, a combination of what's going on in the local area and how you're helping your local community, things like that. Even if no one reads your blogs, Google will read them and they will slowly rank you up over time in authority. The other thing you can do that can give you a really big boost, this is probably more important but much harder to get, is to connect with local community websites, connect with local bloggers, other local businesses, reach out for partnerships where you list your website on their website in exchange for you listing their website on yours. Basically, you put your website on each other's websites and say, hey, this is a really good electrician in the area. We've partnered with this local electrician, and we've partnered with whatever local company that you partner with. Those local links, as long as you mention this is a local electrician in the link, you want to put that specifically, then those local links can be really strong. Google ranks those quite highly when you do those things, and they're called local backlinks or just backlinks. And the other thing you could do is get backlinks from high authority websites. So things like, if you're an electrician, there's probably like big electrician organizations across your entire country. If you can sign up to those and list your website or get them to list your website as a local electrician somewhere across that country, those things can have a lot of authority and bring a lot of authority score to your website as well. And there's a bunch of different ones you can do. Watch out for these ones because there are a bunch of sketchy SEO companies that will basically put you on fake high authority websites that can get flagged at any moment and basically can ruin your website. And so anytime people are kind of paying for SEO links that don't really make sense, or backlinks that are kind of sketchy or dodgy, or you don't know what the company is or whatever, be wary of that. If that ruins your website and makes you have to start a new website all over from scratch, that's not a good look on Google. Google will probably track you anyway, so just be very careful of that. Okay, cool. So that's pretty much it. So that's what an SEO company will do for you. They'll slowly grow that authority score and slowly rank you up on Google over time. I think it's worth doing when you're already getting a few calls coming in, or you've got a small budget that you're willing to allocate to grow your business. I think it's one of the things that you do at the start of growing your business, when you want to build it up over time, and you just spend $1,000 a month or less on slowly having it built up in the background. The only problem is that I wouldn't rely on them to do this stuff, the Google Business Profile on the website, because like I said, I've worked with companies before and they miss one thing and you're screwed. Basically all the work they do in the SEO stuff doesn't matter because they've missed out on implementing one of these things in the setups. And because of that, none of their work even matters. It will slowly be building up the authority score over time, but you won't be making any money from it. You won't be getting any calls. That's the problem. And so I would take it upon yourself in some way to just make sure that these things in the setup for both the Google Business Profile and the website are actually happening. Now, the other thing that's worth mentioning, it's not a ranking factor, but you'll need to choose somewhere to host and build your website. I see a lot of people choose a lot of different options. What you want to be looking for, and when you either for yourself or you're talking to other people, is you're looking for speed is number one. We want to build the fastest website we can. If you don't want to work on your website, it's really easy for someone else to work on it and for you to easily hire someone if that person leaves. So I would just recommend looking at the bigger website builders and the bigger hosting providers at this point. I think Hostinger is a pretty good option nowadays. They're pretty fast and they're very cheap. And then if you're looking for like the maximum speed, like you can do like rocket.net, those are pretty good. There's a few ones that are maximum speed. You can literally just look it up on ChatGPT and ask them like what are the fastest websites and hosting providers in your location. And then for like the website itself, a lot of people use website builders. I would recommend just using WordPress. Not because I like WordPress. I mean, it's a necessary evil, but basically WordPress, there's a lot of people that know how to use it, a lot of people that know how to build on it. You can build really fast websites on it. It's easy to find people to work on them for relatively cheap. So that's why I would recommend a WordPress website, mainly for the speed and ease of hiring. All right, and next up we have Facebook, Instagram, and local lead services like Yelp and Angi. No one that I've talked to likes Angi. That's fine. I don't like Angi either. But it's worth noting that there are certain strategies where Angi can help with for a short period of time. And so we will mention them. The first things first, for all of these things, Facebook, Instagram, Yelp, Angi, you can set up a NAP on those, name, address, phone number. That will be useful and it will help improve your score. So worth setting those up just for the NAP. Other things for those, we can basically get reviews on all of these platforms with service keywords included, same as Google. Google loves reviews on other websites. If you've got a bunch of reviews on Facebook, Google will actually use those and factor those in when ranking your business. So it's worth getting set up on Facebook. It's worth getting a few reviews on Facebook from friends and family as well. Same with, you can't really do that on Yelp because Who knows how the heck Yelp's review system actually works, but definitely do that for Facebook as well. And then you want to also post content on them that links back to your website. That can help greatly with your SEO as well. So if you're posting, whenever you do a job, you post the image to Google Business Profile, you post it to Facebook, you do a little write-up. That 5 minutes of time, 2 minutes of time can really help with growing your business as well. And just make sure to link back to your website. It's like a light backlink, like one of these things that the SEO companies do. It's not as strong as anything else, but it helps. The other thing is you can get leads from these platforms too. Some companies get all of their traffic from just off Facebook. I know companies, I've seen them post along my journey, where they basically say that we get all of our customers off of Facebook communities and Facebook groups. And so that is definitely a viable strategy for some people in some areas. In some cases, you might not even need to focus on Google at all. You can just use Facebook. Basically what they're doing is they're finding their local communities on Facebook, finding groups on Facebook, and then posting in those groups and doing updates on those groups as they go along. They're posting reviews, they're posting whatever they have, the jobs that they just worked on, and people are finding them on Facebook and hiring them from there, which is great. I mean, if you can do that for your business, that's probably the best option because it doesn't cost anything. However, it's definitely not available in all locations. In fact, I think it's uncommon, but if it works for you. Definitely give it a try. And then the other thing you can do, this is why I put Yelp and Angi in there, or mainly Angi, is that you can use local lead services like Angi to get reviews initially. So if your business isn't getting many reviews, it can be tricky for Google to want to rank you, especially when you're just starting out. You can use Angi to get a few jobs in so that you can boost up the amount of reviews that you get for your business. It's definitely not a long-term thing because Angi's is just not very profitable and extremely hard to use for most businesses. Some businesses can make it work, and Yelp and Angi are area dependent, so they might work better in your area than most. Not many companies can make them work, but you can use them to get a few reviews in the door, get a few reviews rolling on your Google Business Profile. That's how I'd be looking at doing it, because if you get those reviews, then more people will come to Google, and then you'll be able to get the free traffic that Google sends you rather than the paid stuff from Angi's. All right, and that's pretty much the whole strategy for Facebook and Instagram that I'll talk about. If you've got any other comments here about how you've seen Facebook work in a different way than I've explained it, we'd love to hear it. And same with everything else, basically the website and the Google Business Profile. If you figured anything out, please let us know and we can make a video on it and help more people out. Okay, so let's get more into the juicy ads side of things. Ads can be extremely profitable if you do them correctly. It's just the easiest way to get people to look at your business. But like I mentioned before, if you haven't set up the Google Business Profile on your website correctly, then ads probably won't work for you. To be honest, you probably just won't be ready to run ads because they need a level of infrastructure and a level of organization that if you don't currently have, it's going to be very hard for you to do well on them. I'll explain what I mean by that as we go, but you'll see there is a little bit of requirements to run ads that make it tricky operation-wise. So, setting up. You've probably seen Google Local Service Ads before, but if you haven't, just type in Google Local Ads or Local Service Ads into your browser. They show up here. It looks very similar to Google's ads page, but it'll say Local Service Ads at the top. You can sign in and sign up there. Just be very careful when you go about the process of signing up to local service ads. They'll basically ask you initially for a bunch of information about your business. Double, triple check as you're typing things in, because if you make any mistakes, they will check your registry, the business registry in your local area. If any of that stuff's wrong, the verification process can be an absolute nightmare to fix. So that's the difference between Google Local Service Ads and the other stuff. It can just be an absolute nightmare if you make any mistakes or if something goes wrong. Google's support is horrendously bad. Yeah, just try not to make any mistakes because that process can be very difficult to fix. I've actually made a longer guide on how to fix problems with Google Ads as they come up. If you do get stuck in verification hell, I'll post that below as well. It's called like the Local Service Ads Guide, something like that. But it goes into detail as to how to fix those problems, and it goes into a bit more detail on Google Local Service Ads itself. It's completely free, just like this video. I get your email or something like that. If you're interested in that, that'll be below. So verification or signing up. Sign up, there's a part there that talks about background checks, or I think you need to input how many employees that you have in your business. For that, put in the employees that have licenses to background check. Not important to background check everyone, so don't worry about that. Then just put in your service area, put in a few other things, and then you'll be ready for verification. Once you're verified, it'll look like this, where all of your data is in. Along the process, you'll just have to basically keep on coming back to this page every day and just check if you're verified. If you don't get verified, just call them up. Again, this is kind of in my guide that I had. If you get stuck on this, I would highly recommend either commenting or posting in one of the groups that I've got, or just going through the guide that I've got, and you'll be able to solve the problem. But like I said, this can be a nightmare. Get everything so that it's passed, so it looks like this, and then we'll be ready for step 2. And then this is basically the setup stage, and then we'll be ready to actually set up the profile. So 1, get verified, which is what I showed you before, get all these things passed. 2, we want to set our service area so that is correct. So let's go to our profile and budget. And this is where we do all of the changes. So again, it's in the profile and budget is where we do the majority of the setup. Don't worry too much about when you're signing up to the account, getting everything right. We can get it right after we're at this stage, basically. All right, business hours, make sure your business hours are correct. When you're thinking about business hours, you want to think about the times in which you can take phone calls for ads. So it says ad scheduling here. This is when your ads are going to show. If you haven't set up to be available during these times, and then you want to click this little edit button here, which is one that people forget a lot, and just fill in 6 interesting things that you guys do that you think will convince people to choose you over someone else. And then we want to get into the budget and the billing. You'll see here there's a really high budget for this account. Local service ads works very differently from other advertising providers, where usually they'll just take your money and spend all of it, whereas local service ads, you start off with only getting a few leads at a time, and it kind of doubles every week or every month. And so you don't have to worry about them spending your full budget. You'll have plenty of time to change the budget if you need to, but I've never seen it even spend close to a quarter of the budget that you put in, because local service ads are so cheap. But the reason we put the budget so high is so that Google gets an indication that we want to spend a lot of money and they want to send us more leads. That's the only reason we do it. And then just do the bidding strategy the same as I've got. This is the only setting that works really well. And then we've got job types. Just select all the job types that you do. When you're starting out, select every job type that you can do rather than just the profitable ones. We just want to build up the account so that it's getting as many calls as possible initially, and then we can turn settings off a bit later on. Photos, upload photos of you and your team. Those are the ones that work the best. And then also for settings, just turn everything on. You never want anything off. Having anything off is basically telling Google that they shouldn't rank you as highly. So turn everything on. This is why you need to be good at management, because you're going to have to manage emails, texts, phone calls, booking leads, all of those things. Anything you can turn on, turn on. I think you need Service Titan for this one though. So then we've got service area. For the service area, you want to put in as many locations as you can within 2 hours driving distance. Don't do outside of 2 hours driving distance. Google will not like that. Just do within 2 hours. We just want to include as many as possible for now, and we can reduce the service area as we go on. We just need to get as many calls coming in so Google can rank us highly initially, and then we can reduce the service area later on. And then business hours, make sure these are correct. These should just match your Google business profile. Okay, great. So that's everything about the setup. That's literally all we need to do for the setup. If you've got that stuff, there's nothing else you need. Again, there's a lot of errors that can happen during the setup that I cover in my other local service ads resource. There's just way too many things that can potentially go wrong to cover them here. And there's examples in the other resource that I've got. Okay, so once you've done the setup, the management is straightforward, but it's quite difficult. Basically, all phone calls need to be answered within 30 seconds, and you can't put customers on hold. So no call centers. I've made that mistake before. And I will say for the management, it's actually really, really important. Like this thing, I'm about to say, is extremely important. So I will emphasize it. You only get one shot with local service ads. That's the downside with this stuff. So if you ever get to one of the top spots, top 3 spots, top 2 spots on local service ads, if you screw up any of this management stuff I'm about to talk about and Google deranks you, you can't get back to the top. They basically will flag your account as like not a good account. They will never let you get a large amount of phone calls ever again. The only way that I know to reset it is to create an entirely new Google business profile, which most companies it's not worth doing. But that's it. If you get flagged, it's tied to your Google business profile and you can't get leads from Google local service ads again. So follow exactly what I'm saying if you want Google local service ads to work. If you're not ready, don't start advertising on local service ads. Please make sure you're ready first. This is another reason why I say set up the other things first, because you need to be doing things really well and good with leads in order to make local service ads work. If you're just looking for a low amount, you're probably fine without being too strict on this stuff, but you're still putting yourself at risk for sure. Okay, so answer the phone calls within 30 seconds, no putting customers on hold, no call centers, anything like that. All messages answered within a day, but ideally within seconds, so you'll get texts and emails coming through. Don't turn them off, even though they don't convert that highly. Google just wants you to keep them on. If you turn them off, you'll get deranked, or just at least get way less messages and calls. But you want to answer those very quickly. Think about it like this. Whenever someone sees the local service ads at the top of the page, they usually see 2 companies at once, or multiple companies at once, sometimes 3, and they'll message all of them at once. They'll message all of them the same message, and whoever's first basically is the highest chance of winning the lead. So keep that in mind. With local service ads as well, it's worth noting that the customers that usually come through it are like small to medium-sized jobs. Some are large, not very often, but they're often customers that want things done quickly. So keep that in mind for your pipeline. Like maybe prioritize the local service ads for them getting done fast. Yeah, that's just what we've noticed across the board. And then from there, we've got other things to manage. So there's a management platform within local service ads that you'll need to use, or at least the people that are using it will need to use. There's really only 2 things you need to look at, and there's leads, profile and budget, and maybe the reports if you want to see the reporting. Don't really use anything else, but you can go into leads. And in the leads section, whenever you've got a new call come in and new message come in, they'll come in here and you'll be able to click on them and you'll be able to manage them. And so basically what you want to do is make sure that every time that something comes in, you give them a name. If you don't know the name, then you just put no name. You're basically just using the system. No name, put the notes in here. Sometimes I just copy and paste stuff from the customer. I've put in fake data here rather than blur it out so that you get a good idea of what customers actually type, which you'll be seeing right now. But then the other thing you want to do, which I've got on my list, is you want to make sure every lead is organized by status. And what I mean by status is that you want to archive, mark as booked. You really want to archive pretty much almost never, maybe only for like people looking for jobs or like spam calls. You don't want to archive people that are like looking for a business but maybe are cheap, like they don't go with you guys, or maybe they're outside of your service location. Don't archive anyone like that because they're still kind of relevant. You only want to archive people that aren't relevant at all. So people that are looking for work or spam calls. And then for everyone else, you want to mark them as booked. If you don't work with them, you just say already completed. So if they were a relevant job, but you didn't end up working with them, just say already completed. If you did work with them already and were kind of like slow on updating, just put already completed. But if you book them in, you can put updating and then put the time that you booked them in for. And then you want to rate every lead. You want to make sure that when the leads come through, you rate them either very satisfied or very dissatisfied, basically very, very polarized. This was either a great lead or not. If you didn't work with them, but they were relevant, then you could just say it is a service that generates high value for the business, or type in other. But basically, you just want to tell Google that you're happy with all the leads coming through, even if you're not, even if they're outside your service area, even if it's a different service that you don't do, just say that you're happy with it, because you just want to encourage Google to send you as many leads as possible. And the thing is, if it was outside your service area anyway, then Google's just going to refund you the money in most cases. They have an automated system which refunds customers that aren't relevant, or refunds people looking for work, or spam calls and things like that. So you'll get a refund if the customer really can't work with you anyway. It's a pretty good system. Or if it was a spam call, all the options will be there. Great. That's worth mentioning as well, is that local service ads are extremely cheap compared to other advertising methods. They're probably like 5 to 10 times cheaper. They're extremely cost efficient, but you just don't have much control over how much Google sends you. From what I've seen, if you manage things correctly, you can basically double the amount of leads you get per week. So it starts at around 2, and then 4 the next week, and then 8 the next week, and then 16, and then 32. You can basically just increase the amount of calls you can get up to the max limit depending on the competition in your area as well. It is highly competition dependent, so if someone else has already taken the top spot in your location and they're managing things extremely well, then you might not actually be able to have the opportunity to get to the top spot either, but you will get a few leads trickling in because Google will still let you get some. It's worth noting that if that top account ever screws up, you can get their spot, so it's worth it just to make sure that the processes and practices that you're doing for LSA are consistently good just in case they get kicked out, because this is one of the best lead sources of leads you can get. It's the cheapest in terms of advertising, and the leads are relatively good, so don't miss out on it. If that sounds like it makes sense for your business or your strategy, then definitely prioritize it. The other thing we need to do is whenever we make a sale, we can come in and there'll be an edit button. So I'll just go to, that one's completed. We'll be able to edit up the top. So we've already booked this one in before. We can change the job type to just make sure we're sending Google the right information, send them what estimate we price for them, and then great. So whenever we do an estimate, we can put that in here. Awesome. So that's LSA. So that's literally everything about LSA that you need to know. I guess the only other thing is if you're looking to look at the reports, you can. This business right here is one of the kind of horror stories where basically we were getting a ridiculous amount of leads. If we go back to May, let's see how many we're getting. Like 91 leads at a pretty good price, like $30 per lead. We were the top position by far. Anything above 50% means that you're showing up in the number one position most of the time, and so that's what we want to get to. 12,000 impressions. Yeah, $30 calls. Like if they advertise on Google, it probably costs them around $150 to $300 per call. The jobs are a little bit better on Google Ads, so it's worth it, but that's what I'm saying. It's literally 5 to 10 times cheaper. And if you can get to the top spot like this, you can just run your business off Google local service ads alone. This company was booking like 30 jobs a week from local service ads. The thing that we screwed up with these guys is before I knew about local service ads, again, this was a year ago, we tried to get a call center because we wanted to take more calls at night. We were too greedy, and basically the call centers weren't picking up the phone in 30 seconds. They would put people on hold, and Google doesn't count the hold tone as picking up the phone. And so we basically got deranked. We just went slowly down over time and could never recover. And now you see what we're getting now is like 2 leads a week, maybe less? Yeah. We just can't get above this like 38 to 40% range, no matter what we do. For other accounts, though, like for example, this one that I'm working with, like this is last month, they're getting even cheaper leads because they're in a different location, less competitive, but you can see they're above that 50% threshold. And so they're happy. They've been doing this for like almost a year now. We've kind of cracked the code. Sucks that we can't do it for that other company, but they're doing very well on Google Ads anyway, so it doesn't really matter. If you want to do Google Ads or do Google local service ads right, you follow literally everything I've just said here and you will do amazingly. And then again, if you get stuck, you can use the resource that I've linked below. Okay, great. And lastly, we've got Google Ads, which in some locations, for some industries, can be the most profitable source of calls. They can generate calls that are higher quality than any other source. Definitely the case for electricians, but again, like if it's basically like the last stop on the list. If you've done all this stuff and things have been okay, then Google Ads might be the thing for you. It's always useful to have in the background as well at kind of like a lower budget too, because Google local service ads only shows up 50% of the time, whereas Google Ads will show up almost all the time. And so we want to make sure that we're not missing out on anyone that comes through. All right, so the way that I want to do Google Ads is kind of a bit backwards. Because the setup takes quite a long time and there's like a billion videos out there of people doing the setup for Google Ads. I kind of want to go the other way around where I'll just assume that you've set it up. If you haven't set it up already, go find another video from your niche. Just type in whatever your company niche is, like electrician, Google Ads setup, and then you'll find someone that talks about the setup. They'll do a good enough job for now, and then we'll go through all the settings that actually matter. So once you've done the setup, you can come back here and we'll start taking a look. All right, so this is Google Ads. You've probably already seen it before. So the first thing we need to figure out is what type of campaign that you've got. So most of the time for local lead gen, you want to start with a search campaign. And then if that's not working, then Google Ads won't work for you. So start with a search campaign. To figure out whether or not your campaign is a search campaign or not, let's just go to enabled ads. It'll have this little button here, which is a little search button right here. Cool. So if it's got that icon for you, that means it's a search campaign. Great. Let's move on to the second thing. We want to make sure the campaign is lead focused. So let's go back here. So you want to click on one of your campaigns. I'll click on this one. And we want to make sure that if we go to campaign settings, and just wait for that to load, we want to make sure the marketing objective is either leads or no goal guidance. Either one of those is fine, and hit save. So make sure that is the case for you. And then we want to make sure conversion tracking is set up with a focus on phone calls. So you probably would have done that with the guy that you set it up with. Conversion tracking can be annoying, but the way to check it is to go into goals, conversion summary, and then we will go down to wherever you've set up the phone calls. For me, it's right here. I've got tell link clicks, and we also have form submissions, but that's whatever it is. And then you also want to have the phone call set up the top as well. So that should all be set up for you. And if it's not, then I would look up videos on how to set that up. It's pretty important for debugging, but with the strategy we're going with, it's not too important for tracking. So it's more important for when you're setting things up to make sure things are actually working. And otherwise it's kind of hard to know if the setup you've done is working or not. And if not, then you might waste a couple $1,000 trying to figure that out. So get that set up. We want to make sure search partners is off. So if we go back to the campaigns and go back to the campaign settings, we want to make sure that the search partners here are off initially. All right, so let's talk about max clicks or manual CPC with the CAC. This is basically the bidding strategy. This is by far the most important topic because I think it's the thing that has the most impact on your account. However, you need everything else to make sure it works, but this one, we've lost over $500,000 on one account over a year just from not managing this correctly. And I mean, that's okay because as I was learning, you know, this is one of the things I was learning about. This particular thing in general, 5 other companies couldn't get it right. So basically, the guy that I ended up working with on this, he had hired about 5 different other companies, including one of the larger ones like Scorpion. Yeah, it was definitely Scorpion. And none of them could get calls for his business. He gave them over a month and a half each for these companies. And yeah, none of them could get him calls. This is the thing that I learned that was the reason that he continued to hire me. And he's continued to hire me for over a year now. And it's a very tricky topic because pretty much everyone you talk to will tell you the opposite of what I did, even though what I did is what worked. I'm hopefully here going to save you a ton of money if you don't already, like if the people that you're working with or you don't already know this stuff. I'm about to give you basically secrets that are worth over $500,000 because we wouldn't have lost that money if I knew this before that. So let's begin. So what is the bidding strategy or the max clicks or whatever? If we go into the campaign and we go to the bidding here, you'll see that we can choose a bidding strategy. I've got maximize clicks. And you can change the bidding strategy here to different types. Most people will recommend conversions and conversion value after a certain period of time on your account. Some people will recommend it straight away. I just think that most people don't understand how it works. And to be fair, I don't understand how it fully works, and I don't think anyone, except for maybe the people that coded it, know. But Google definitely doesn't know how it works because most of the people that I talked to that convinced me to change to one of these two things were from Google. And some of those other people were, I mean, they were different agencies that came in and I was more of a consultant kind of watching what they were doing. But every company had tried to switch the account to conversions and conversion value unsuccessfully, which I thought was very interesting. And I dived quite deep into why that was. And so I'm going to explain that here to you right now. I stick with clicks. And the reason is that right now my client doesn't want to switch away from it. We could definitely go with a strategy like manual CPC, which to find manual CPC, you can click on that button that I just clicked on and then manual CPC will appear. It's disappeared now, so you can click change bidding strategy or this button here and then manual CPC will appear. The difference that I don't know too much about manual CPC. I've used it a few times and I didn't have as much success with it as clicks. for an electrician or electricians, which I work with mostly. But I think they're actually quite similar, and you can get similar results for cheaper using manual CPC. We just didn't have the time frame needed to test it. So it does take longer to get results on manual CPC than maximize clicks every time, because you need to do testing and things like that. And so if you're just looking for fast, the 2 weeks results, which I kind of mentioned at the start, you'll be able to do that with maximize clicks. Pretty much no other strategy will be able to get you results within 2 weeks. I'm pretty certain of that. At least that's just what I've seen. Maybe the other strategies might if they're really lucky, but maximize clicks, you'll 100% see results in 2 weeks if you set everything up correctly. If you haven't set up everything correctly, then you'll get issues and it won't be working. However, it's still better because it's the fastest way to basically see results in your account. And as soon as you start seeing results, you can start changing things and you can start figuring out what's wrong. The problem with all the other strategies is they actually take quite a long time for you to start seeing results and consistent results and things like that. So just keep that in mind when you're doing stuff. All right, cool. So let's dive into why I think I'm getting good results with max clicks compared with max conversions, and why the heck, if this is the case, everyone's trying to convince me to change to these things, even though I've tested them like over three or four times and they've never performed. So what is going on there? So when you get contacted, because you will, if you start running Google ads and you continue for a while, you will get contacted by Google. You may get contacted by other agencies being like, hey, your bidding strategies might be inefficient. But Google will definitely tell that to you. And what they'll say to you is they're very convincing. They'll say you'll get lower costs on your conversions. So to get a call, it will cost you less. And they'll say it'll cost you almost 50% less, basically, like half the price for a conversion is what they'll tell you. And they'll also tell you that you'll get more conversions because Google's algorithm will be able to find them. And both of these things are true. But the problem is that when you actually work really closely with the owner and you get data straight from the business, you're checking out the sales data, you're checking out the amount of calls that have been booked per day, the average job size, so how much the job was worth, then what you'll find is that both of those metrics for, say, an electrician type business will go down. So even though they'll get more calls, far less of those calls will actually convert into a job. And also, far of those estimates will convert into a job. So, someone might book in a call and the calls are good, and then you'll go out there and the estimate will be harder to convert, is what we found. And then also on top of that, the job types are much smaller. The job types are much smaller and the customers aren't as good. So you get a combination of less conversions when you go to the estimate, and also the job types being smaller. And so you probably get maybe around a quarter or a fifth of the revenue that you would get from a maximized conversions campaign than you get from maximized clicks. And I'm making up those numbers. I don't know what it is. All I know is that it's highly unprofitable to do maximized conversions for an electrician, at least the electricians that I work with, compared with a maximized clicks campaign. Even though the numbers on Google look amazing, the numbers for the business don't. So yeah, that's basically it. And like I said, we've probably lost more than $500,000 on just testing this because so many people have convinced us previously, and other companies have switched the account when they said they could get better results. And during those periods of time, there was probably about 4 or 5 months where we could have just been running maximized clicks and earning another $150,000, $100,000 a month that we lost out on that money because we decided to switch strategies, trying to get better results than what we had. All right, so with my limited knowledge of this, because again, I don't think anyone truly knows, and anyone that tells you they do, even the Google reps, they're honestly just lying to you, because I think only the people that made the algorithm know, and like Google doesn't teach anyone that. It's like kind of a hidden algorithm. So what I think actually happens is this. So I think maximized conversions is really built for specific product sales. So things like online shopping and specific services. So say if you had a campaign that was specifically targeted at a certain type of product, like maybe just EV chargers, right? EV charger jobs are basically going to be very, very similar unless you have like a service upgrade. So even then, it's a tough one. But let's just say every EV charger job an electrician did was the same static price every time. It was like, $3,000 or something to install. That product would work really well on maximized conversions because there's no range of pricing. And the same with shopping. There's no range of pricing with shopping. You have a static price on a product and you can purchase that product and that's it. And I think Maximize Conversions is really good at finding customers for static prices. It can search out everywhere and see who would want to buy a static price product and find them, and you can get more conversions and it costs less on Google to get those. But the problem is that I think it's actually terrible for general services where you have a large price range. So for example, for an electrician, they can install a ceiling fan for $300 and then they can have a full home rewire for $40,000 or more. And the problem is, I think the way that it searches out those static prices, it's disadvantaged because basically it tries to find anyone who's willing to buy. And for some reason, more people are willing to pay for that lower price services than higher price services, right? So somehow it just goes out and hunts all of the low price jobs because it's easier for it to find, they're cheaper for it to convert with, and it's more likely to find those people and convert them. I think the algorithm is very good at finding those people to pay for the lower tier pricing when you have a price range. Like say if I just had a $40,000 service, then I could tell the algorithm to go out and find those. The problem right now though with Google is you've probably seen with the way that we've set up the campaigns, that the way the campaign setup works is that the campaigns that are working better are the ones that are more broad. So instead of having specific services, which we kind of have a little bit with the ad groups, but even with the ad groups, it's still like the campaigns that do the best are the broad campaigns, basically. Like the campaigns with just electrician in them, and that's what I've been hearing across the board and what I've been doing for a year, and it works extremely well. But so that's the problem, is that we can't match up this very broad strategy which gets all types of jobs with the maximize conversions bidding strategy. Just for some reason, doesn't think it works. That's my hypothesis as to why it doesn't work. So if your business is similar to this, where you have a very broad range of services, very broad price range, then you might benefit more from a similar bidding strategy to an electrician. If not, then what I would suggest you do is do the normal strategy, which is run maximize clicks or manual CPC until your campaign's working for like a month. And then once the month time is up, you can switch your ad account to the maximize conversions, which is what people normally suggest. So take that as you will. So I guess in the future, if someone, if you are one of these campaign types like an electrician that's broader, if someone does come to you and say, hey, you're getting good results or you're starting to get good results with maximize clicks, why don't you switch to maximize conversions? You'll have very good reasons as to why not to switch. Unless you want to experiment and you're willing to waste the money, then that's up to you. I think I'll just end with a piece of wisdom I learned from all of this. Every time you change a system, you risk breaking it. So before you make that change, ask if it's worth not having a working system at all. So from there, we want to make sure we've got the right ad set up. So responsive plus call ads. Let's go. So go into ads. And then I'm just going to select the ad group since I've got a few ad groups. But basically we just want a responsive ad and a call ad right here. Not sure why that one's under review. But basically, sometimes the call ads will work and they will generate calls, and the responsive ads link back to the landing page, whereas the call ads, most of the time people will just see them and click to call. We want to make sure we've got both. We want to make sure that the ads are filled out in their fullest, like what we've got with Google Business Profile. I'm going to blur this, but basically we want to make sure everything's filled out to the fullest it can be. We want to make sure our assets are filled out. Have callouts, snippets, lead forms, don't need apps. But basically we want to fill out as many as we can because Google will make our ad larger. So we'll take up more space depending on how many things we've filled out. And I think they just want to show the ad more. So like I said, this campaign is highly profitable, so we're not too worried about updating it right now. We're very happy with it. We've gone through like a year of trauma with this campaign, and as long as it's working, we're pretty happy. All right, so next one. Basically, we want to do the same thing as our Google Business Profile. Make sure we go through all the settings. Make sure we go through all the setup. The other videos that you watch to help you set things up will tell you the same thing, hopefully. Just make sure you do those. In terms of the headlines, there's a lot of different ways people do it. The way that I like to do it now is basically just say something like we're the number one X business in location, and then combine that with doing research on all the other advertising. You can just go look in some of the most expensive locations around the US, for example. Those guys would have put a lot of money into their advertising. You can take their headlines, rejig them for your area as well. There's a really nice tool that you can use, which I'm sure someone else has shown you, called isearchfrom.com. I'll just paste it in there so you can see it. It's isearchfrom.com. And basically you can use this to go check out other people's ads. Okay, cool. So once we've got those headlines going, we want to make sure we've got a good landing page. So some people like landing pages, some people don't. I think they're very good. I think if your website's good enough, you won't need a landing page. Basically, if you built a website like this one, this is basically acting as a landing page. The only difference that I would have is just remove this navigation bar, because if someone's coming and paying to go to your website, you don't want them to go click around your website. You want them to convert on whatever they came to convert for. And so just getting rid of that will keep them on the page. Instead of clicking around here, they'll just scroll down, and just basically they'll get more convinced and more convinced the more they scroll down. That's the idea. Whereas like normal websites, a lot of websites aren't built to convert. They don't have the cool buttons all over the place so that people are ready to buy. Their headline or their initial image people see isn't built to convert. And so I would look up how to build a great landing page in my niche, but this is basically a general format of how to do it. There's a couple of really strong people that talk about landing pages that you can find on the internet, but yeah, this is a good example. And then we want to make ad groups for profitable services. So like you saw, I've got a few ad groups on my Google Ads account. I've got ad groups for EV charges, panel upgrades, those sorts of things. You can just link those ones back to the website. If they are working and they're profitable, then great. You can make landing pages for them if you want and start tweaking those to see if you can get more calls or whatever for those services. And then we've got the keywords. So people like to talk about keywords first usually, but keywords I think nowadays are very simple compared to what they used to be. I think broad match keywords, just the ones to go with. You only really need one broad match keyword. So if you're an electrician, we literally just have electrician as the keyword. Electrician's the main keyword that we use. It's fine, it's good, gets a lot of good traffic. It's not going to be the same for every industry. Roofers, for example, I've run a roofing account before. You need a ton of negative keywords in order to make roofing work. So the difference between electrician and roofing is that, and we'll get into negative keywords soon. Broad match keywords are great. Broad match basically means there's no quotation marks or brackets around the keyword. Look up all the different match types that Google has so you understand how they work. But basically, if someone searches for anything relevant to an electrician, we're going to show up in that search for that. And an example of that is if we go on here. So these are the search terms we show up for. We show up for electrician near me, electrician near me. Are they the same? Electricians near me, I should say. But we also show up for when people search for other electrical companies. So Klein Electric is a local electrician. We show up for electrician Des Moines, which is the location. We show up for other competition. So we show up for a lot of different searches, and you have to choose which kind of searches you want to show up for. And then it's worth touching on phrase match keywords too. So depending on how much search volume you've got, phrase match keywords can also be good as well. And usually you get slightly higher rank boosting with these. But I mean, nowadays, I think broad match is just fine. It seems to work fine. And then you just kind of like build your campaign around the broad match keywords. However, it works really well for an electrician because it's just one keyword. It's just one word. Whereas if you did a broad match for electrical services, you're going to get anything that's related to electrical, anything that's related to services. And so you need to do a better job of managing the account when you do those kind of things. And I'll show you how to do that now. So the last thing on the list that I talk about is very strict negative keywords. So if you are going for broad match, which I think is the best, you want to set up your negative keywords right here so that you basically are excluding all the things you don't want to be for. And you want to set these up before you start your campaign. So you basically want to, you can go online and you can download negative keyword lists for Google Ads, which are kind of just like general things like people that are, I mean, I can show you the list here. It's just like people that search for random stuff on the internet related to your thing. When I, when can, what I, all of these different phrases that aren't buying phrases. For our search campaigns, we just want to be focused on people that are looking to buy. So all of these phrases are people that are not people interested in buying things, basically. And you can find this list online. There's a bunch of them. But then we also want to make sure that if our niche has a lot of keywords that are like retail keywords, so roofers, for example, or any industry that has a lot of DIY people, like maybe flooring, roofing, people that are going to be looking for the roofing products, we want to make sure to add those all as negative keywords. So like all the different types of shingles, all the different types of gutters, all of those kind of things, we want to make sure that we add them as negative keywords, and we just keep in the broad things. Like we want to keep in like metal roofing or roofer near me or roofing company. The problem is if we have all of those, if we don't exclude, and basically in order to add a keyword, you just go to these lists and press the plus, or you can add them in the keyword section and negative keywords here. Just look up how to do negative keywords. But we need to add all of those negative keywords because otherwise in our search terms, we'll have a lot of retail search terms, which we're going to lose a lot of money because basically retail search terms, people click those a lot more. They're not going to be relevant for our business. And so we'll lose a lot of money on Google Ads, or at least we won't have the searches that we want. And so ideally, all of these search terms here are the ones that you want. But it's better to set these up before you run your campaign rather than after it. For this company, they like broad electrician keywords like electrician near me, electrician, all of these ones work. But they also work very well with competitors. So they've got a really good team. So whenever someone calls them up asking for another electrical company, they're good at turning the sale around and getting some of those calls to work with them instead. That might not be you. If you're a small one-man or two-man team, you might not want other people calling up for other companies. You might not know how to convert those guys on the phone. So you might want to remove all your local competitors too. And to do that, you can search on Google, type in all of their company names into your negative keywords. Negative keywords are a little bit tricky because if you put in the wrong negative keywords, you can stop getting searches. So I would definitely look up those of like how to do them properly. You basically want to make sure that your negative keywords are all phrase match. This means that whenever this phrase is present in someone's search terms, so if anyone types in something, electrician, WordPress, or whatever, something like that, you won't show up because WordPress is on that list. The other thing you want to make sure is that you don't put in like, I never want to put an electrician into my negative keywords because now I risk not being able to show up for the electrician searches. I just want to put in the other parts of the phrases that people search in. I don't want to go into any further here. If you're interested in learning more about it, I would do that research yourself. When we get into management, so that's the full setup for Google Ads. If you do all of that stuff, then you'll be in a good position. There are a few more setup things to do with the account and billing and admin stuff, but other people should go over these things. They're not going to be integral to you getting calls. They should have been in the setup that you did previously. Actually, there's one more thing I should mention that isn't on here though, which is the location. The location, because that's actually very important. Let's just add that in really quick. So location, there's just one location setting that really matters. If we go to the campaigns again, we just want to make sure that in locations, actually, I think it's in the campaign settings as well. Let's just check. Yeah, campaign settings. We want to make sure that in the locations campaign setting, we have this location options, that this presence people in or regularly in your included locations is set. Otherwise, your ad account won't work. Basically, we just want people in the local area for local services. Okay, cool. That should have been the setup you did, which is why I didn't include it. Okay, cool. All right, so from here, if we're doing the management for the Google Ads account from this point onwards, we want to be looking at your CRM, sales data, and talking with the team that you're working with the office. If you're, whatever you're doing, just go with the sales data. I think it's more important than anything else. You can measure things month to month. If you're currently not using a CRM and you're running Google Ads, probably don't run Google Ads until you have gotten used to using a CRM because you really need to track that stuff. You want to install a program like Hotjar. Basically, when we start running the ads, we want to make sure things are working. And so there's things that you can use called like Hotjar, which you can install on your website. And basically what it will do is it will record videos of people when they come to your website. It's completely free. Oh, well, you can use it for free. But yeah, it'll record videos of people coming to your website and you can see what they do on your website. So if there's any issues with your website, you can quickly fix those because you'll be able to see those issues on the videos. So it's really useful to do as well. And you basically just want to make sure your landing page is good. You want to review your conversion data to make sure that's good too. So like you want to make sure that your conversions are coming through when you actually start getting calls. And then the other thing we want to do is once everything's working, we want to start slowly A/B testing ad pages, ad headlines and landing pages. We can start changing things slowly. We can start increasing the budget if you want to, decreasing the budget, whatever you need to do. But basically, we just want to do changes that are going to positively impact the account. I wouldn't recommend doing the big changes like I talked about before with changing like the bid strategies. But if you feel like you need to do it, go for it. And yeah, that's Google Ads. It's a bit of a longer, more comprehensive topic, and I'm sure there's a lot of places people can get stuck on. So please do leave comments. If you know anything else about local lead gen and Google Ads that you want to share with us, please do. Oh, one more thing I forgot to mention with the management, and that is budget. So when you are changing budgets and things like that on Google, you want to make sure you give things a lag time. So basically, any budget changes will stop, especially for newer accounts, like if you've set it up in the last couple of months, it will stop all calls coming through, and basically Google will go through a mini learning phase. If you change the budget too much, then Google will go through a full learning phase where it will take like 5 days in order for the calls to start coming in again, or 3 days or something like that. But when you're changing the budget, you basically just want to increase it in small increments, especially if your account's new. And just keep in mind that when you do change the budget, there'll be a little bit of downtime after you change the budget in most cases. So what we usually do when you're managing Google accounts budgets, I would recommend changing the budget at night when your ads are turned off, or right at the start of the period where you have your downtime, so that Google has enough time to kind of relearn. And basically when your ads come back on again in the morning or the next day or whenever they turn back on, you won't have to go through that period of downtime. That's what I would recommend there. And then if you change the budget, just change it in increments slowly over time. Usually like 20% is fine. So just increase it by 20% or decrease by 20%. The longer your account's been running, the more you can just flip-flop the budget and Google won't care. Great, but that is everything. So that's the full process. Please do leave comments if you get stuck on anything. If you need any help, join the group that I post below. If you've got any insights that I missed, please post them as well so that I can share them with people that might need help. Like I said, there's resources for Google Local Services that you can use that are free. If you want to contact me about anything to do with this process, if you need any help with anything, feel free to contact me. If you found this video useful, maybe subscribe. I'll make more videos like this in the future to help more people, especially if people like this one. Share the video with other people in communities that you think this could help. Appreciate you guys, and best of luck.